as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the quiet suburban street. Sarah stood at her bedroom window, her eyes fixed on the mailbox. The letter she had been waiting for was due today, the results of the DNA test that could finally put an end to the uncertainty gnawing at her heart. Her hands trembled slightly as she checked her phone for the umpteenth time, hoping for a message from the lab. Nothing. She turned away from the window, frustration bubbling within her. Why was this taking so long? The doorbell rang, startling her. Sarah hesitated before making her way downstairs, her mind racing with possibilities. Who could it be at this hour? She peeked through the peephole and saw Mark, her ex-boyfriend, standing on the porch. Her heart skipped a beat. He had never come by unannounced before. She opened the door slowly, her expression guarded. "Mark, what are you doing here?" He shifted his weight, looking uncomfortable. "Can I come in? I need to talk to you." Sarah stepped aside, allowing him entry. They settled in the living room, the tension palpable between them. Mark cleared his throat, his voice hesitant. "I heard about the test, the one you wanted to take." Sarah's jaw tightened. "Yes. And your refusal to cooperate speaks volumes, doesn't it?" Mark sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Look, I know how this looks, but there's more to it than you think. Can we just talk this out?" Sarah crossed her arms, her skepticism clear. "Fine, let's talk, but don't expect me to believe anything until I see those results." Mark nodded, his gaze earnest. "Okay, fair enough. But first, can I ask you something? Do you remember that night, when we—" Sarah's cheeks flushed at the memory. "Of course I do. Why?" "Because I remember it too," Mark said softly. "And I remember feeling certain things, like maybe this wasn't just a fling for you." Sarah blinked, taken aback by his sudden vulnerability. "What are you saying, Mark?" "I'm saying, maybe we should give this another chance, for her sake." Sarah stared at him, her mind reeling. Could he be serious? After all this time, after everything they'd been through? She needed time to process this, to think clearly. I need some time, Mark. This is a lot to take in." Mark nodded, understanding. "Take all the time you need, but please, consider it, for both of us." As he left, Sarah sank back into the couch, her thoughts a whirlwind. The doorbell rang again, and this time, it was the mailman. Her pulse quickened as she collected the envelope from him, her name printed neatly on the front. Back in her room, she tore it open, her hands shaking. Inside was the document she had been waiting for, the DNA test results. With bated breath, she scanned the page, her eyes widening as she read the words confirming what she had always suspected. She was the mother of Mark's child. The weight of the revelation hit her hard, emotions crashing over her like waves. She needed to tell him, to share this news with the man who had just offered her a second chance. Grabbing her phone, she dialed his number, pacing the room nervously. It rang several times before he picked up, his voice cautious. "Sarah, is everything okay?" "Mark, I have something to tell you. It's about the test. The results came back positive. She's yours." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Then Mark's voice, thick with emotion. "Are you sure?" "Yes, I'm sure," Sarah replied, her own voice breaking. "What do we do now?" Mark took a deep breath, his resolve clear. "We figure this out together. Meet me at my place tonight. We need to talk face to face. Sarah agreed, her heart fluttering with a mix of fear and hope. As she dressed for the meeting, her mind raced with scenarios, each more uncertain than the last. Arriving at Mark's house, she knocked on the door, her nerves frayed. He opened it, his expression somber but welcoming. They sat down in the living room, the atmosphere heavy with unspoken feelings. "So, where do we start?" Sarah asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Mark reached out, taking her hand in his. "First, we acknowledge what this means. We're parents, Sarah, to a beautiful little girl who needs us both." Sarah's eyes welled up with tears. "I know, and I want to be there for her, for both of you. But what about us? Can we make this work?" Mark leaned closer, his gaze intense. "I think we can, if we try, if we're honest with each other and ourselves." Sarah swallowed hard, her heart pounding in her chest. "Then let's try, for her sake, and for ours." As their lips met in a tender kiss, the years of separation seemed to melt away, replaced by a newfound connection forged by the bonds of parenthood and shared love. Their bodies pressed together, the heat between them undeniable as they moved towards the bedroom, each step a declaration of their commitment to this unexpected family they were building together. In the dimly lit room, they undressed each other slowly, their hands tracing familiar paths over skin made unfamiliar by time. Mark's fingers brushed against Sarah's cheek, his voice husky with desire. "I've missed this. Missed you." Sarah smiled, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "Me too. More than you know." As they fell into bed, the sheets tangled around them like the threads of their past and future intertwining. Each touch was a promise, each kiss a renewal of vows long forgotten. They explored each other with a hunger born of longing and loss, their bodies moving in sync, a dance as old as time yet newly discovered. Sarah gasped as Mark entered her, the sensation both achingly familiar and thrillingly new. They rocked together, their breaths mingling in the shadowy space between them, the world outside fading away until there was only this moment, this connection, this truth revealed in the most intimate of ways. As they reached the peak of their passion, their bodies shuddering with release, Sarah clung to Mark, her heart overflowing with the realization that sometimes, the answers we seek are found not in tests or trials, but in the embrace of those we love.